You can tell when someone's lying, if you really want to see it. She looked straight at me, wearing the same innocent face that made me fall in love 2 years ago. Pale pink lips, trembling slightly. Hazel eyes brimming with what looked like guilt. But that wasn't guilt. That was fear. Fear that I'd already found out. And I had. I found out 3 nights before the wedding. She'd been sleeping with my brother. Not just once. It wasn't a mistake, a lapse, or a drunken moment like she claimed. It was an affair. Ongoing, dirty, calculated. And worst of all, he knew she was mine. Let me rewind. Her name was Madison Reed, the kind of woman who walked into a room and bent the air around her. People turned. She was that kind of beautiful. Smart, too. Graduated top of her class in architecture. Ran a boutique firm downtown. I met her at a gala. She smiled at me like I mattered. Like I wasn't just Ethan Caldwell, the younger son, the quiet one who never quite lived up to his older brother's spotlight. Speaking of him, Landon Caldwell. My brother, the golden child. Wealthy, charming, the heir to our father's empire. He walked like the world owed him something, and often it gave in. He was the kind of guy who could wreck a home and still get invited to dinner. And now, apparently, he wrecked mine before it even started. I found out from a text, not one meant for me. A ding at midnight. Madison had left her phone in the living room. I don't usually check, I'm not that guy, but her screen lit up, and there it was. Can't wait to see you again. The things I'll do to you tonight. Landon. I stood there, phone in hand, reading those words like they weren't in English. My chest went still. My blood, hot and bitter. I kept scrolling. Photos, messages, dates. Memories I thought were ours, but they had another version behind my back. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone or storm into the bedroom. I just walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of whiskey. Neat. No ice. I stared out the window and watched the moon. Cold and cruel. Just like the two of them. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek and asked what kind of cake we wanted at the wedding. Vanilla or chocolate? I smiled. Vanilla, I said. Revenge should always look sweet. Now here's the part they didn't expect. I didn't cancel the wedding. I didn't confront her. I didn't tell a soul. I put on a suit, went to work, and let them both think they got away with it. But while they were busy betraying me in secret, I found someone else in plain sight. Rachel Evans. Yeah, that Rachel. The one he left at the altar 2 years ago after cheating on her in front of half the city. The one who vanished from every event, every party, every damn family holiday after the scandal broke. I remembered her pain. I remembered how cold he'd been. I remembered she didn't deserve any of it. So I found her, and I made her an offer. I showed up at her bookstore on a Tuesday. She looked up from the counter, and I saw the hesitation in her eyes. Ethan? Hey, I said, calm. Mind if we talk? She folded her arms. I'm not interested in more of your family's drama. This isn't about Landon, I said. Lie. It's about something better. The truth wrapped in a prettier package. She hesitated, then gestured to the small cafe table near the back. We talked. About life, about pain, about how people like Landon and Madison always win because no one fights dirtier. About how it's not justice we want, it's closure. That's when I said it. Let's give them a reason to choke. I took the ring Madison wore and replaced it. I took the wedding date and moved it forward by 2 weeks. I took the venue they bragged about and rebooked it under a different name. I took Rachel's hand and asked her to marry me in public. Not out of love, not yet, but out of respect, out of alliance. And she said yes. The moment our engagement went viral, I waited. I wanted to see Madison's face. I wanted to see Landon's jaw clench. I wanted them to feel what we felt, the twist of betrayal in the gut, the nausea of regret. And at the engagement party, they did. Because guess who walked in? Them, together, wearing fake smiles, holding fake hands, as if no one knew what they'd done. But I knew, and Rachel knew, and tonight they'd pay. You know the worst kind of silence? The one right after a bomb drops, but before the smoke clears. That's what it felt like when Landon and Madison walked into the engagement party and saw me, smiling, calm, hand in hand with Rachel Evans, the woman my brother once discarded like she was nothing. We didn't make a scene. We didn't need to. The room spoke for us. People turned. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Champagne glasses hovered awkwardly in the air. A few fake coughs tried to cut the tension, but it hung heavy, like a rope waiting to tighten. Rachel leaned in slightly, just enough for me to hear. "Did you see her hand shaking?" I glanced. Madison's white-knuckled grip on Landon's arm was the only crack in her perfect exterior. Her lips moved, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Not anymore. "Let's go say hello," Rachel said, her voice as sweet as syrup laced with cyanide. I nodded. Absolutely. We moved across the ballroom like royalty on a red carpet. Every eye followed us. And just as Landon was reaching for a champagne flute, I tapped his shoulder. "Brother," I said, full of warmth I didn't feel, "I didn't expect to see you here." He turned, blinked, then recovered. Landon was always fast on his feet. "Wouldn't miss it," he said. "Big day. Congratulations, I guess." Rachel smiled. "You guess?" Madison stepped forward, brushing invisible lint from her designer dress. "This is sudden, Ethan. 2 weeks ago." She stopped herself. I raised an eyebrow. "I was what?" "Nothing," she said quickly, voice sharp around the edges. "Just surprised." "You're not the only one," Rachel chimed in. "I mean, I was surprised when I found out your fiancé used to be mine. Small world, huh?" Landon's mouth twitched. "That was a long time ago." "Still feels fresh to me," Rachel replied, sipping her drink. "But I'm healing, new beginnings and all that." The air grew tighter. I could see Landon calculating, trying to flip this, to frame it as immature or petty. But for once, his words failed him. Madison was the one who spoke next. "Well, I hope you're not doing this just to—" "Make a statement?" I interrupted. "Of course not. This is love. Can't you tell?" Rachel smiled, resting her hand on my chest like we'd done it 100 times before. "We're very in sync," she said, eyes locked on Madison, "especially about people who lie." The night continued. Everyone pretended. But every laugh was forced. Every toast fell flat. Landon kept glancing at me, and I knew it wasn't just curiosity. It was fear. Fear that I'd say something, that I'd expose them. But I didn't. Not yet. Tonight was about poison, not explosions. I wanted them to feel the slow, choking dread of watching everything collapse grain by grain. And Rachel? She was brilliant. She floated around the room, mingling with guests like a queen, collecting whispers and rumors like sharp knives in a velvet purse. Every now and then, she'd come back to me with updates. "2 of your cousins know. They're pretending not to. Your aunt just told someone she knew that girl was trouble," meaning Madison, obviously. Someone overheard Landon and Madison arguing in the hallway. I nodded, letting it all brew. The storm was forming. Let them feel it. Near the end of the night, I saw Madison standing alone on the balcony. Her back was turned, her shoulders tense. I followed. She didn't hear me at first, not until I spoke. "Cold night." She flinched slightly. "Ethan?" I leaned on the railing beside her. "You okay?" She didn't answer right away. Then, "Why are you doing this?" I turned toward her. "Doing what?" "Rachel? The engagement? The party?" Her voice cracked. "This isn't you." "You think you know me?" "I did," she whispered, "or I thought I did. And I thought you were loyal." Her eyes widened. "You know." I knew the second I read the texts. I've known for days. Madison stepped back, breath hitching. "Ethan, "You cheated on me with my own brother," I said, low and controlled. "So yeah, forgive me if I don't give a damn about your confusion." "I made a mistake." "You made a choice, over and over again." She was crying now, mascara trembling. "I didn't want to hurt you." I looked at her, really looked. "No," I said. "You just didn't care if you did." I left her there, alone, shaking, surrounded by a party full of people who were beginning to whisper the truth. Rachel joined me near the exit. "Did you say it?" she asked. I nodded. "She knows I know." "Good," Rachel said, "because this is just the beginning." We walked out together, hand in hand, and I knew, in that moment, that this wasn't just revenge anymore. It was war. If there's one thing the Caldwell family does better than business, it's burying secrets under cashmere smiles and polished silverware. So when I got the text from my father, "Dinner, tonight, all of us," I knew what it meant. He knew. Or at least he thought he did. The engagement party had done its job. It shook the family tree, and now the roots were bleeding. Madison's absence didn't go unnoticed. Landon's forced smiles and Rachel's return had tongues wagging faster than stocks after a market crash. So, of course, the patriarch wanted answers. The Caldwell estate was always cold, no matter the season. Massive marble floors, oil portraits of dead relatives we pretended to admire, and a dining room long enough to echo regret. I walked in with Rachel on my arm. Elegant in a deep navy dress, her hair swept into a clean knot, she looked every inch the composed future daughter-in-law. Landon was already there. So was Madison. And the fact that she showed up told me one thing. She was still pretending. My mother sat stiffly at the head of the table, her pearl necklace clashing with the tightness in her jaw. My father didn't look up as we took our seats. He simply raised a hand to the butler. "Close the doors." They shut with a finality that felt biblical. He started like any CEO would, with silence. He let it stretch, weigh, dominate. Then, "This family is about legacy, not headlines." Landon shifted uncomfortably. Madison stared at her untouched glass of wine. Rachel, to her credit, simply folded her hands and waited. "I read 6 articles about our little engagement spectacle this morning," my father continued, now looking directly at me. "And all 6 mentioned her," he nodded toward Rachel, "as the ex of my eldest son." "Which is accurate," I replied calmly. "And intentional?" "Also accurate." My mother gasped softly. "Ethan." "I'm not here to play victim," I said, tone even. "I'm here to tell the truth since no one else seems brave enough to do it." Landon stood. "Don't do this." "Sit down," my father growled. He did. I turned toward them all. Madison and I were engaged, until I discovered she was sleeping with Landon. My mother went pale. Rachel didn't flinch. My father just blinked once. Madison's lips parted, ready to lie, but I cut her off. "I have proof. Messages, photos, timestamps." Landon clenched his jaw. "You went through her phone?" "You went through my life," I snapped. "Don't talk about privacy." The room fell quiet. And then Rachel stood. "I didn't come back for drama," she said, voice strong. "I came back because Ethan and I found something real. We know what betrayal feels like. We know what it means to be humiliated in public, in private, and in front of the people who should have protected us." She looked at Landon. "At you." He couldn't meet her eyes. "Don't worry," she added. "We won't be needing the Caldwell name for our wedding. We're planning something intimate, just close friends, and no liars." Then she turned to Madison. "You never deserved him." And to my surprise, Madison said nothing, because she knew it was true. After dinner, I lingered on the balcony. My father joined me, sipping scotch, the air thick with judgment. "You humiliated your brother," he said. "He did that himself. And you think marrying his ex is smart?" I looked at him. I think marrying someone with integrity is smarter than marrying someone who sleeps with their future brother-in-law. He studied me for a long time. Then, you always were the quiet one. I never expected this from you. That's the problem, I said. You never expected anything from me. He didn't reply, just walked away, leaving the scent of power and disappointment in the air. Later that night, Rachel and I sat in her apartment, the city flickering outside the windows. I meant every word, she said, curling her legs under her. So did I. There was a moment. Quiet, honest. A flicker of something real. Not revenge, not games. Just us. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a shadow. I felt seen. Some people can lie to the world without flinching, but the lies they whisper to themselves, that's what eventually eats them alive. And right now, Landon Caldwell was rotting from the inside out. Landon. He sat alone in his penthouse office, staring at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He used to feel like he owned this skyline. Now, it just looked like a wall of glass waiting to shatter. Madison was in the next room. She hadn't said much since the family dinner. She tried to act like it didn't matter. She said Ethan was overreacting, that the texts meant nothing, and that she only ever loved Landon. But he knew better. He saw the cracks forming beneath her eyeliner, the restless pacing, the way she couldn't even look at her own reflection anymore. She was falling apart. So was he. And for the first time in years, he wasn't in control. "Do you think he'll really marry her?" Madison asked, sitting on the edge of the bed like a ghost. Landon didn't answer. She twisted the sheet between her fingers. "She's doing it to get back at you, at us." He turned to face her, his voice like steel. "No, she's doing it because she finally found someone who respects her." Madison blinked, caught off guard. "You think he respects her?" she asked, bitter. "I think he respects everyone but you," he snapped. The words hung in the air. Ugly. Honest. He regretted them as soon as they left his mouth, but it was too late. Madison stood, fire flashing in her eyes. "You're just mad you didn't get to her first," she said. "You can't stand that Ethan beat you for once." He shot up from the couch. "You think this is about ego?" "You used me," she said, stepping closer. "You didn't love me. You just wanted to win. You crawled into my bed, Madison. And you didn't stop me." Silence. Nothing left to say. They both knew the truth. Ethan. Meanwhile, Rachel and I were sitting on the floor of her apartment, eating takeout out of the boxes, like two kids who had burned their old lives to the ground and decided to start over with nothing but paper napkins and trust. "You ever think about what would have happened if we never met?" she asked. "Which time?" I said. "The gala or the revenge plot?" She smirked. "Either." I leaned back against the couch. "I probably would have married a liar," I said, "and you'd still be hiding from the world." She nodded. "Probably." There was something peaceful about it, like the pain we carried was slowly bleeding out, replaced by something quiet and warm. "Can I ask you something?" she said suddenly. "Of course." "What are you going to do with all the dirt you have?" I looked at her. "You mean the proof of the affair?" "And more. The old family secrets. The ones your father's been hiding. The stuff about Landon's business deals. Your friend Mike mentioned it. He said you've got files." I hesitated. Rachel wasn't wrong. After discovering the affair, I'd done more than stew in anger. I'd investigated, dug deep, found cracks in the family empire, corruption, cover-ups, and some ugly truths that could burn the Caldwell name to ash. "I have them," I said, "but I haven't decided what to do with them." She nodded. "Well, you might want to decide soon." I frowned. "Why?" She stood, walked to her desk, and pulled out a small white envelope. "This came to the store this morning," she said, handing it to me. No return address. Inside, a printed photo of Landon and my father, shaking hands with a man I didn't recognize, in what looked like a hotel suite. Attached was a single typed line. The lie you think matters is just the beginning. I stared at it. My heart thudded once, loud and hard. Someone's playing games, Rachel said quietly. I nodded, jaw tight. And they just dealt us a new hand. There's a moment in every war when you realize the battlefield is bigger than you imagined. That you're not just fighting to expose two lovers. You're unearthing an entire system of rot. For me, that moment was a photograph, and a face I didn't recognize, yet. The man in the picture stood between my father and Landon, shaking hands like they'd just signed the deal of the decade. My father's signature smile was there, but his body language was off, his stance stiff, guarded. Landon looked confident, smug even. The room they were in had gold trim, ornate furniture, European, maybe Middle Eastern. I flipped the photo over. Blank. I showed it to Rachel again. You're sure this came to the store directly? Addressed to me, she said. No note, no sender, just the image. My skin prickled. Someone wanted me to see this. Someone who knew exactly where to aim the next shot. The next morning, I called Mike, my closest friend, former classmate, and current corporate investigator. He picked up on the first ring. Please tell me you're calling because you found a reason to ruin your brother. I didn't smile. I need a face traced. I sent him the image. 2 minutes later, he whistled through the phone. Ethan, you know who that is? No? That's Dmitry Novak, Eastern European real estate tycoon, except half his deals are tied to shell companies laundering money through offshore accounts. I sat up straighter. And why is my family meeting with him? That's the billion-dollar question. Later that day, Rachel and I met Mike at a small cafe near downtown. He laid out everything he'd uncovered. Novak was under quiet investigation by several international agencies. He'd funneled money into U.S. markets through shady joint ventures. One of those ventures, a commercial project in Chicago, fronted by Landon Caldwell. I leaned back in my chair, the pieces falling together like bricks in a grave. Are you saying my brother is involved in laundering? I'm saying your brother is the face of it, and your father's the cover, Rachel exhaled, which makes your little engagement stunt not just personal, but political. And that's when we realized the timing. Novak, the engagement party, the anonymous warning. Someone was trying to expose the Caldwells, but they weren't going through the media. They were using us. Rachel narrowed her eyes. Someone wants to blow up this family from the inside. And maybe we were just the spark. That night, my phone lit up with an unknown number. No caller ID, no name. I answered anyway. A woman's voice. Mr. Caldwell. Yes, I saw your engagement announcement. It reminded me of something. Who is this? You don't know me, but I know your father. And I know what he did in 1992. My pulse jumped. What are you talking about? Then, he paused. Then, he paid someone to disappear. A woman. Her name was Elena Novak. Click. The line went dead. I stood frozen, the phone still to my ear. Rachel came over. Who was it? I turned slowly. Someone who just opened a door I can't close. She looked into my eyes. What kind of door? The kind that leads to bodies buried under the family name. Meanwhile, Madison wasn't done. Not by a long shot. While I was chasing shadows and family secrets, she was working her own angle. She met with a reporter. She cried on cue. She said I emotionally manipulated her and claimed Rachel was using Ethan to get back at Landon. She was crafting a narrative, one where she was the victim, and she had the media eating out of her hand. The next morning, headlines exploded. Caldwell love triangle. Ex-fiancée speaks out about betrayal, lies, and control. From power couple to PR nightmare, inside the Caldwell family rift. Rachel tossed the tablet on the table. She wants war? Let's give it to her. I met her eyes. No, I said. She wants noise. We give her silence, the kind that builds pressure. Then I looked back at the photo of my father and Dmitry Novak. We're going deeper.
That was the year everything changed. I just didn't know it until now. The name Elena Novak wouldn't let go of me. It clung to my thoughts like smoke in my lungs. That anonymous caller had dropped it like a match, and now everything around me was catching fire. My trust in my father, my past, my family legacy. So I started digging. Not in the legal databases. Those had been wiped clean. Not in my father's files. He was too careful for that. But there's one place people forget to bury their sins. The people they used to love. Rachel and I drove 2 hours outside the city to a small lakeside town called Hollow Bend. The kind of place that doesn't show up on GPS unless you already know it exists. Mike had traced a dead property deed there, once owned by E. Novak, transferred to an anonymous shell company in 1993. It had been dormant ever since. We pulled up to a decaying cabin surrounded by pine trees and silence. Rachel stepped out first, looking around. This place feels haunted. It is, I said. By secrets, by ghosts, by whatever my father tried to bury here. Inside, the cabin was stripped. No furniture, no electricity. Just the whisper of wind through broken panes and the creak of rotten floorboards. And then, in the far corner, under a loose floorboard, we found it. A box. Old, wooden, locked but not tightly. I pried it open. Inside, letters. Dozens of them. Handwritten. Dated between 1990 and 1992. All signed, Elena. Rachel and I sat on the floor and read. The letters were to William Caldwell, my father. They weren't business. They weren't casual. They were love letters. Raw, desperate, and then, slowly, terrified. Will, I can't keep this a secret anymore. You promised we'd start a life together, but now you won't return my calls. I heard rumors that your wife is pregnant again, that you're cutting me out. I'm scared. You said I meant something, that we had a future, but now you want me to disappear? If anything happens to me, I want someone to know. It wasn't an accident. My heart thudded harder with every letter. And then came the final one, written weeks before she vanished. I'm pregnant. Rachel looked at me. Do you think she... I nodded slowly. Had a child. Maybe more. Do you think your father knows? He paid her to disappear, I said bitterly. He didn't just know, he orchestrated it. Rachel was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, What if you have a sibling out there? The ride back was silent. Both of us trapped in our own spirals. I wasn't just the son of a businessman anymore. I was the heir to a bloodline, soaked in lies, paid off with hush money, and maybe worse.
And now that this truth had cracked open, I wasn't just confronting an affair or a ruined wedding. I was walking through a graveyard of the forgotten. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark with Elena's final letter in my hand. I thought about Landon, what he knew, what he didn't. I thought about Madison, how her betrayal suddenly felt small in the face of this bigger storm. And I thought about Rachel, how she was the only thing that felt solid beneath my feet. Then my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. If you want to find her, look where the Caldwells never go. Ask about the nurse at St. Bridget's. You'll find the rest. I stared at the screen. A nurse, a hospital, a lead. Elena might be gone, but her child wasn't, and I was about to find them. Meanwhile, Landon Caldwell was spiraling. The headlines had turned. Madison's pity parade had lost steam, especially after leaked text messages suggested she had blackmailed Ethan with old college photos, taken out of context to make him look violent. It didn't stick. What did stick? The photos of Landon entering Novak Group's private yacht last summer, just weeks before Dmitry Novak's name appeared in 3 money laundering indictments.
The walls were closing in. Investors were pulling out. And worse, his own father had gone completely silent. Madison stormed into Landon's condo that night, eyes wide. "Your father's cutting you off." "What are you talking about?" he snapped. "I heard it from a board member. He's protecting himself. You're the fall guy." Landon froze. And for the first time in his life, he realized what Ethan had always known. In this family, loyalty is disposable. St. Bridget's Hospital didn't look like a place where secrets lived. It looked like any other aging brick building, tucked away in the sleepy edge of the city, too far for media attention, too forgotten for memories to survive. But I was there to exhume one. Rachel and I sat in the waiting room, the hum of old fluorescent lights buzzing above. I clutched Elena's letter in my pocket, the one that ended with a truth so sharp I still hadn't absorbed it. I'm pregnant. A child. My half-sibling, born in 1992. Somewhere walking this earth, living a life never meant to be acknowledged, and maybe never knowing why. A nurse named Helen emerged from the back hallway, older, early 70s, sharp eyes. "You're Ethan Caldwell?" I stood. "Yes." She nodded, motioning for us to follow. We walked through narrow corridors until we reached the old records archive. She unlocked the door herself. The scent of dust and decay hit immediately. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. Helen glanced at me. "Because I knew Elena, and she didn't deserve what your father did to her." She opened a file cabinet, rifled through yellowed folders with trembling fingers. "Elena came here late 1992, gave birth in secret, paid in cash, no family, no visitors. Your father sent someone with a briefcase the next morning." She stopped. "They took the baby." Rachel stiffened. "Took?" Helen nodded. "No name, no birth certificate filed, just disappeared. Officially, the child was stillborn, but I held that baby in my arms. He was breathing." My throat closed. "They covered it up?" I asked, barely able to form the words. Helen looked at me, tears forming behind hardened eyes. "They erased her." She handed me a small file. Inside, a copy of Elena's intake form. A faded Polaroid, Elena, pale but smiling, holding a tiny boy swaddled in hospital white. And one last note, in shaky handwriting. "He has her eyes." We left the hospital in silence. Rachel gripped my hand the entire way back to the car. "I think I know someone who can help trace the adoption," she said finally. I looked at her. "Because we're not stopping now, Ethan. This isn't just your story anymore, it's his too." And in that moment, I knew. This war was bigger than my heartbreak. This was about justice for someone who never had a chance to fight. Meanwhile, Landon was unraveling. His apartment had turned into a war room, papers scattered, calls unanswered, bourbon disappearing faster than clarity. Madison sat on the couch, scrolling through headlines with a face that had hardened into stone. "Do something," she hissed. "Your brother's winning. Your name is being dragged through hell." "I am doing something," Landon growled. He dialed a number, waited. When the man answered, he said one word. "Novak." A pause. "I need insurance, something on my father. Anything, I'll pay." Another pause. Then, "Meet me, tonight." Later that evening, in a dark parking garage beneath the city, Landon met with a man wearing a hooded coat and a foreign accent. "You want proof?" the man asked. "You want leverage?" Landon nodded. The man handed him a flash drive. "On this, names, dates, accounts, including your father's, and Dimitri's." Landon narrowed his eyes. "Why give this to me?" The man smirked. "Because your brother is about to expose it all. If you want to survive, you'll need to betray your own blood first." Landon pocketed the drive. He walked away, with his fists clenched, and a decision already forming in his mind. Back at Rachel's loft, I stared at the Polaroid again. Elena's smile was soft, her eyes tired but hopeful. And the baby? Dark hair, tiny fists, a fragile hope the world had never welcomed. "I won't let him be forgotten," I whispered. Rachel rested her head on my shoulder. "And when you find him?" she asked. I paused. Then, I'll finally know who I am. When the press smells blood, they don't circle, they swarm. That morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. Texts, emails, missed calls. Then, I saw it. A headline screaming across every media outlet in the city. Caldwell Empire linked to international laundering ring, leaked files expose internal corruption. I sat up straight in bed, the glow of the screen cold against my face. Next to me, Rachel was already awake, scrolling. "This wasn't us," she said. "No," I said slowly. "It was Landon." Landon Caldwell, in his typical move of self-preservation, had leaked part of the truth. Just enough to deflect. Enough to stain our father, but not implicate himself. He painted it like he was the whistleblower, the one brave enough to expose the Empire's sins. He even gave an exclusive interview. I loved my family, but I couldn't stay silent anymore. There were deals made behind closed doors that I knew nothing about, until it was too late. Lie. The problem with a man like Landon, he's too good at performing sincerity. I watched the video of him on national television. Hair perfectly styled, voice smooth, mournful. Even wore a navy tie, our father's favorite. A calculated betrayal dressed up as a confession. Rachel slammed her laptop shut. "He just threw your father to the wolves." I nodded, and climbed on his back to save himself. But Landon wasn't just running from the truth. He was trying to beat me to it, because he knew I had more. And if he didn't move first, I'd burn it all down before he could rewrite history. I called Mike. "I need the full Novak archive, everything we've got." "You planning to release it?" he asked. "No," I said. "I'm planning to bury Landon with it." While we worked on tracing the rest of the money trail, Rachel was following a different thread, one that led to a small adoption agency in upstate New York. They'd changed names 4 times, filed bankruptcy twice, but one file remained, deep in the old microfilm archives. Baby boy Novak, born December 2, 1992. Mother, Elena Novak. Father, unnamed. Adopted out under sealed agreement to a private family 2 weeks later. Rachel took a screenshot and sent it to me, with a simple message. "We found him." His name is Jay. That afternoon, I stood outside a music studio in Brooklyn.
Not a mansion, not a trust-funded address. Just a simple storefront with guitars hanging in the windows. Inside, a man stood tuning an old Fender Stratocaster. Early 30s, dark hair, same eyes as Alina. I stepped in. My heart was in my throat. He looked up. "Can I help you?" I nodded, slowly. "I think we might be related." He frowned. "What?" "My name is Ethan Caldwell. Your mother was Elena Novak." Silence. Then he set the guitar down carefully. "I think you need to leave." I didn't. Not yet. "I'm not here to drag you into drama," I said. "I just wanted you to know. You weren't forgotten." His jaw tightened. "I didn't ask to be found." "I know. And I won't come back. Unless you want me to." I placed a copy of Elena's last letter on the counter. "She wanted you to have this." He didn't touch it. But he didn't throw it away either. As I turned to leave, I heard him whisper, "What did she look like?" I turned back. "Like you," I said. "Like someone who deserved better." Meanwhile, Landon was losing control of the fire he started. Instead of sympathy, the media started asking questions. Why didn't he come forward sooner? Why were some files redacted? And then a journalist from the Herald leaked a photo of Landon with Madison, time-stamped 3 weeks before my canceled wedding, on a romantic getaway in France. The article tore through the internet like a blade. Whistleblower or cover-up? New evidence links Caldwell brother to timeline of scandal. His spin was breaking, and for the first time, he looked like the villain. That night, I received a voice message from him. Low, furious. "You think this ends with your fake engagement and your little discovery mission? You don't know what our father's capable of. Keep pushing, and you'll find out the hard way."
I played it for Rachel. She didn't flinch. She just said, "Good. That means he's scared."
The Caldwell estate always reminded me of a museum, grand, untouchable, cold. But that day, as I walked up the steps to confront my father, it felt more like a tomb, a place where secrets had been preserved like corpses in glass coffins, and I was there to shatter every last one of them. I found him in his study. Same leather chair, same untouched scotch on the desk, same expression he wore when I was 8 and broke the greenhouse window. "Sit," he said, without looking up. I didn't. I dropped the folder on his desk instead, the one labeled Novak, Elena, J. He didn't touch it, just stared at the cover like it was ticking. "I know everything," I said. He sighed. "I doubt that. Elena was pregnant. You paid her to vanish. You let her believe she had no choice. She had options," he snapped, finally looking up. "She just didn't like any of them. She was terrified. She was unstable. She was in love with you." The words hit the room like a bomb. His jaw flexed. "Love is a liability, Ethan. You think I built this empire by falling in love? You built it by lying," I said, "by breaking people. And look how far it got us." He stood, slowly, walked to the window. The Novak situation was messy, but it was handled. No, it was buried. I walked to his desk and opened the folder. "Her name was Elena. She was pregnant with your son, and you let him be adopted out under a sealed file like he was a bad investment." He turned. "And now what? You want to welcome him to Thanksgiving? Give him a seat at the table? He doesn't belong in this family." "Maybe not," I said, "but neither do you." There was a beat of silence. Then he said, "Landon told me what you're planning." I raised an eyebrow. "Which part?" He stepped closer, voice low. "If you leak that archive, you won't destroy just me. You'll collapse every Caldwell trust. You'll cost thousands of employees their jobs. You'll burn down everything your mother built. And Rachel? She'll go down with you." I stared at him. "You don't protect people, you trap them." "I protect legacy." "No," I said. "You protect yourself." And then I handed him a letter. Elena's last one. "You don't get to pretend she didn't matter anymore. Read it, or burn it, but you're going to remember her." I left without waiting for his answer. Outside, the wind hit like judgment. Rachel waited in the car, watching me like she could feel the storm in my chest. "Well?" she asked. "He'll fight back," I said, "but the glass is already cracked." She nodded. "Let's break it." Meanwhile, Landon was unraveling. The media had turned against him. Sponsors withdrew. Partnerships dissolved. And Madison? She walked out. No goodbye, just a voicemail. "I thought we could control the story, but you're not a man people follow. You're a man people blame, and I'm not going down with you." He poured whiskey, threw the glass, punched a mirror. But none of it made him feel better. He had one card left, and he was about to play it. That night, a video leaked anonymously. Grainy, hidden camera. Me and Rachel, recorded during a private conversation. Laughing, close, whispering about Landon's corruption. "Looks like the engagement was a setup," the voiceover claimed. "Looks like Ethan Caldwell planned this from the start. The good son might not be so good after all." It exploded online. Rachel's business was doxxed. I got threats. Even Jay was named in fringe forums. They were coming for all of us. And Landon was behind it. "You wanted a war?" Rachel said that night, pacing the apartment. I watched her carefully. "We're in it." She stopped. "Then let's stop playing defense." And she opened a new folder on her laptop. Inside, every file Mike had traced to offshore accounts tied to Landon shell companies. Bribes, embezzlement, kickbacks. Rachel looked up at me. This isn't a scandal. It's a crime." The next morning, I scheduled a meeting. Not with the press, with a federal investigator. It was time to stop bleeding slowly. It was time to cut deeper. It didn't happen with sirens. No police raid, no flashing lights, no handcuffs at dawn. Landon Caldwell's fall was quieter than that. But it was devastating. At 9 a.m., I handed a sealed envelope to Special Agent Drew Halston, lead investigator on financial crimes tied to foreign laundering networks. Inside, wire transfer receipts, asset movements, email threads, and a signed statement from an ex-Caldwell executive who was ready to cooperate. "Are you sure?" Agent Halston asked. I nodded. "He sold out his country for a penthouse view. He doesn't deserve to walk free." He flipped through the first few pages. His eyes narrowed. "You realize this implicates not just Landon, but your father." I met his stare. "I'm prepared for that." He paused, then sealed the file and stood. "We've been waiting a long time for this. You just lit the match." The story broke 2 days later. Breaking news: Landon Caldwell under federal investigation for international fraud. Sources confirm Caldwell's involvement in funneling laundered money through real estate developments across the U.S. in connection with indicted foreign magnate Dmitry Novak. By nightfall, Landon's face was on every major outlet. Unflattering screenshots, photos of him leaving nightclubs, the video of him giving that now infamous whistleblower interview. Only now, the public knew it had all been a lie. I watched it unfold from Rachel's apartment. She stood in the kitchen pouring wine, phone vibrating non-stop. "You think he knows it was you?" she asked. "Oh," I said, "he knows." Across the city, Landon watched the same coverage in a penthouse that suddenly felt too quiet. His phone buzzed with silence. No lawyer, no investors, no father. Even Madison had blocked him. He stood, pacing, sweat slick on his temples. He picked up his phone, scrolled through his contacts, and paused on mine. He hesitated, then called. I let it ring. Once, twice. Then I answered. "Ethan," he said. His voice was hoarse, not broken, but close. "You ruined me." "No," I replied. "You did that yourself." There was silence. Then, "You think this makes you better than me?" "No," I said. "Just cleaner." He hung up. And that was the last time I heard from him. 3 days later, Landon Caldwell was arrested at a private airfield, attempting to board a jet bound for Portugal. The footage of him being escorted in cuffs was replayed for days. The Caldwell name, once associated with power, was now synonymous with disgrace. I expected to feel victorious, but I didn't. I just felt free. Free of the lies, free of the guilt I never asked to carry, free to breathe without swallowing the smoke of my family's fires. The night after Landon's arrest, I visited Jay again. He met me outside the music studio, his arms crossed, guarded. "I saw the news," he said. I nodded. "I know you didn't ask for any of this, but if you ever want to know about her, about Elena, I have letters, photos, things she wanted you to have." Jay looked away. Then slowly he said, "Bring them by tomorrow." It wasn't much, but it was a door, and it was open. Back at Rachel's, a package was waiting. Unmarked. Handwritten note tucked beneath the ribbon. "She wanted this kept. I think you're ready now. Helen." Inside, a faded leather-bound journal. Elena's. I opened to the last page. Her handwriting was shaky but clear. "If this ever finds my son, know that I loved you, even when I wasn't allowed to, even when they erased me. You were never a mistake. You were the only thing that was real." Rachel stood behind me, hand on my shoulder. I didn't say anything, but for the first time since all this began, I cried. For a man who'd spent his whole life building an empire, my father disappeared too easily. After Landon's arrest, he didn't call, didn't show up to the arraignment, didn't offer a statement to the press. He vanished into the shadows of the legacy he once guarded like a lion. I thought I'd seen the last of him. I was wrong. A week after the headlines cooled and the stockholders began picking at the corpse of Caldwell Global, I got a call. From his lawyer. Jonathan Hale, the same man who'd been handling the family's affairs since I was a boy. "Your father requested a meeting," he said. "Private, just you. I have nothing to say to him. It's about the will." The Caldwell legal offices were quiet when I arrived. Too quiet, the kind of quiet you only hear in places built for wealth and decay. I stepped into the conference room and saw him there, William Caldwell. Older, smaller, but still wearing the same navy suit and unshakable eyes. He didn't stand. "Ethan," he said, "thank you for coming." "I'm not here for pleasantries," I said. "Say what you need to say." Jonathan sat beside him, setting down a thick leather portfolio. "This is a codicil," the lawyer explained, "an amendment to the original estate documents. Your father updated it the day after Landon's indictment." I folded my arms. "Trying to make peace now?" "No," my father said, "trying to be honest." Jonathan opened the folder. "There are 3 items you need to be aware of." "1," he began, "Caldwell Global will be dissolved. Remaining assets will be liquidated and placed into a blind trust, with 60% allocated to charitable causes focused on housing and education." My eyebrows rose. My father didn't blink. "I don't want my name engraved on any more buildings. I want to scrub it from the walls." 2, Jonathan continued, "Landon has been removed from all family trusts, irrevocably." And 3. He hesitated. "The estate, what's left of it, will be inherited jointly." I frowned. "Jointly?" Jonathan nodded. "Between you and your half-brother." Silence. I stared at my father. "You're giving him your fortune?" "I'm giving you both what's left of the damage," he said. "Make of it what you will. Fix it. Burn it. I don't care." My fists clenched. "You buried him. You paid to erase him. And now you want to make it right with a bank transfer?" He looked me in the eye. "No," he said. "I just don't want you to inherit my sins alone." I left without shaking his hand. Rachel was waiting outside, leaning on her car, arms crossed. "Well," she asked. I told her. She didn't look surprised. "He's not trying to redeem himself," she said. "He's trying to dump his guilt on you." I nodded, and I'm not picking it up. But the idea of sharing anything with Jay? It didn't feel wrong. Not anymore. Later that evening, I met Jay outside the studio. "I got something strange today," he said, holding up an envelope. "It was from Jonathan Hale, too." "Yeah," I said, "me too." He opened it, read, then stared at me. "He's giving me money? He's giving us everything he doesn't want to carry anymore." Jay laughed, short, dry. "I didn't ask for a damn dollar from that man." I didn't either. We stood there, 2 strangers, bound by blood, betrayal, and now, responsibility. "What do we do with it?" he asked. I looked at him. Whatever she would have wanted. The next day I went to the hospital with Rachel. We met with Helen again, the nurse who had helped Elena. I gave her the journal, the letters, a foundation document with both mine and Jay's names. "We're going to open a center," I told her, "for women like Elena, women who are told they don't matter, who are pressured to disappear." Helen started to cry. Rachel gripped my hand. "You're not your father," she whispered. I nodded. "I know." Meanwhile, Landon sat in a courtroom, surrounded by cameras and silence. He wore a navy suit too, except his was wrinkled, ill-fitting, empty. He pled not guilty. His trial was set for the fall. No one sat behind him. No reporters defended him. No Madison beside him. And when the judge asked if he had anything to say, he said nothing. Because in the end, when the noise faded, he was just another man who thought he could outrun truth, and lost. They say revenge burns fast, but what comes after, that quiet space where the rage settles and the ashes cool, is where the real questions begin. What do you build when everything you knew is gone? For me, the answer was simple. Rachel. It had been 4 months since Landon's arrest, 2 since the Caldwell empire was officially dissolved. The money was gone or redirected. The media had moved on to newer scandals. The world kept spinning. But I didn't. Not until I was ready. not until the weight of everything finally gave way to something softer. We were in the countryside, at a small inn surrounded by trees just turning gold. It was her idea, one weekend away from headlines, from legacy, from everything with the Caldwell name printed on it. She didn't know what I had planned, not until we were standing by the lake at sunset. She wore a sweater too big for her, sleeves covering her hands. No makeup, no heels, just her. And I realized I'd never seen anything more certain in my life. "I don't know how this started," I told her, voice shaking slightly. "Maybe as revenge, maybe as a way to feel like I mattered again." She smiled. "We were both a mess." "Yeah," I said, "but we were a mess together. And then, we weren't." I pulled the box from my coat pocket. Her eyes widened. "I don't have a family name anymore," I said. "I don't have an empire, but I have this heart, and it's yours if you want it." I opened the box. A simple ring. No legacy attached. Just love. "Rachel Evans, will you marry me?" Tears welled in her eyes as she laughed, an actual joyous laugh. "You're an idiot," she whispered. "I know." She nodded, wiping her cheek. "Then yes." I slipped the ring on her finger, and just like that, for the first time in years, something felt complete. We sat by the lake for hours, watching stars peek through a cloudless sky. Rachel rested her head on my shoulder. "You think it's over?" she asked. "The war?" "Yeah." I was quiet for a moment. "No," I said, "but it's quieter now, and that's enough." The next morning, a package was waiting outside our cabin. No postage, no note, just our names. Inside was a single envelope, a sealed letter, the handwriting familiar. Rachel gasped. "Elena." I stared at it. This wasn't in the journal. She nodded. It must have been kept separate. With trembling fingers, I opened it. It was dated just days before she gave birth. "To the one who finds this. I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if the world will allow it. But I believe in one thing. Truth finds its way. I'm not angry anymore. Not at William, not at the world. I just hope my child lives free of the chains we were wrapped in. I hope he dances. I hope he loves. I hope he becomes the kind of man who chooses kindness even when he's surrounded by power and pain. If you're reading this, you're that man. Live loud, love freely, and when they try to bury you, grow roots instead." I folded the letter, pressing it to my chest. Rachel leaned in and kissed my temple. "You were always meant to find her." I closed my eyes. And now, I think I can let her go. Meanwhile, Jay opened his own envelope that same day. Inside, a photograph of Elena holding him, and a note written by Helen. She asked me to keep this until the time was right. I think it's now. He stared at the photo for a long time, then pinned it above the counter in his music studio. No fanfare, just memory and peace. The first time I almost got married, it was all for show. Glittering chandeliers, imported linens, cameras, publicity, power. This time, it was quiet. It was ours. Rachel and I decided to keep it small. 30 guests, all people who had stood by us when the world wanted us to break. No headlines, no press releases, just truth. We held it in the garden behind the house we'd recently bought together, an old ivy-wrapped farmhouse at the edge of a vineyard just outside the city, a place that smelled like earth and hope. The aisle was lined with candles and jars, the chairs mismatched, the flowers hand-picked from the hill nearby. But she, Rachel Evans, in a simple white silk dress, hair in soft curls, eyes full of everything that never had a price tag. She was everything. Mike stood beside me as best man. Jay sat in the front row, next to Helen. Even Jonathan Hale attended, dressed in something softer than usual. No briefcase this time. When the music started, just a soft acoustic guitar, Rachel stepped out from the house and into the golden late afternoon sun. Everyone stood, but I didn't move. I was frozen. Because somehow, after all of it, the betrayal, the headlines, the collapse of everything I was raised to believe in,
This woman still chose me. And I couldn't believe I'd ever thought I was the one saving her. Our vows were handwritten. Rachel's voice trembled as she read hers. You came into my life with revenge in your heart, and I should have run. But you stayed. You didn't just stand beside me, you stood in front of me when everything felt like it was falling. And now, I want to stand beside you forever. I swallowed hard, took her hands, and read mine. You weren't the plan, but you became the only thing that made sense. I lost a family, a legacy, and a name, but I found home in your eyes. And I promise every day forward to give you a life that's built on love, not lies. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden, not even Jay. We kissed under a sky full of fading sun and rising stars, and for the first time, the applause wasn't a performance. It was real. The reception was just as simple. Long wooden tables under strings of lights, bottles of wine passed hand to hand, laughter, toasts, off-key singing. Rachel changed into a short floral dress halfway through and danced barefoot in the grass. Mike gave a speech that made half the table choke on their drinks. Jay even stood and said, I didn't grow up with a brother, but now I've got one, so thanks for marrying my maybe ex. We laughed. Rachel raised her glass. To second chances, she said. And everyone echoed, to second chances. As the night wore down, I slipped away to the edge of the property. Helen found me staring at the sky. She would have been proud, she said softly. Elena? She nodded. Of both of you. I didn't speak. Just reached into my pocket and pulled out the final item from her journal, a tiny pressed wildflower tucked between 2 pages. I let the wind take it. A piece of her. Finally free. Just before midnight, as Rachel and I slow danced beneath the stars, headlights pulled into the driveway. A black sedan. One I didn't recognize. I tensed, but Rachel touched my arm. It's okay, I asked him to come. He stepped out slowly. My father. Older, gaunter, dressed simply. Not as the empire's king, but as a man. We stood across from each other, silence between us. Then he said, I didn't come to be forgiven. I know, I said. I just wanted to see what love looks like when it's not bought. I nodded. And for once, he didn't look disappointed. He looked relieved. He left before dessert, but that was enough. Later, as Rachel and I lay tangled together beneath soft sheets and candlelight, she whispered, Do you believe in happy endings? I kissed her shoulder. No, I said, but I believe in earned ones. And we earned this. Every second. Some things don't end quietly. Some things demand a stage. And Landon Caldwell's trial was one of them.
Journalists, spectators, protesters. People who once sipped champagne at Caldwell galas now crowded outside for a glimpse of the fall. Inside, everything smelled of sweat, tension, and old wood. I hadn't wanted to testify. I hadn't planned to stand up there and lay my family's filth bare in front of the world. But the truth? It deserves to be spoken aloud, even if it hurts. Rachel squeezed my hand before I stepped up. You've already survived him, she whispered. Now you get to end it. I nodded. Then I took the stand. The prosecution asked simple questions. Did I know about the shell companies? Yes. Did I have access to the records? Yes. Was I aware of Landon's partnership with Dmitry Novak? Yes, and I had the receipts. They showed emails, bank transfers, faked signatures, buried assets, a paper trail paved in arrogance and greed. Landon sat there, stone-faced, the golden child stripped of polish. When it was the defense's turn, they tried to flip the script. You had a personal vendetta against Mr. Caldwell, didn't you? Yes, I said plainly. He slept with my fiancée and stole from my family. The courtroom gasped. I didn't blink. And yet you waited months to come forward? I leaned into the mic. I was taught to protect the Caldwell name at all costs. I had to unlearn that. Later, Jay was called as a surprise witness. He spoke calmly, truthfully. Your family tried to erase my mother. Ethan didn't just find me, he chose to do the right thing. Can you say the same about your client?" The jury stared hard at Landon. He didn't meet their gaze. The trial lasted 6 days. On the 7th, the verdict came. Guilty. On all counts. Wire fraud, conspiracy, international laundering. Maximum sentence, 24 years in federal prison. Landon stood there as the judge read the ruling, expressionless. No outburst, no apology, just silence. When they cuffed him, he turned to me, almost like he wanted to say something. But I turned away and walked out. Outside, the sun was blinding. Reporters rushed us, shouting questions. I didn't answer. Rachel slipped her hand into mine. Jay stood beside me, and we kept walking. Because it wasn't about headlines anymore. It was about peace. That evening, I visited my mother. She'd stayed quiet throughout the whole ordeal, retreating to a small coastal home outside the city. She opened the door and pulled me into a hug I hadn't felt since I was a boy. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For raising sons in a house without truth." We sat on her porch, watching waves crash against the rocks. "I should have left him years ago," she said, "but I thought protecting the family meant staying quiet." "It's okay, Mom." "No," she said, "but it will be now, because of you." She handed me a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, her mother's. "For Rachel," she said. "Start clean." Back home, Rachel met me at the door. "You okay?" she asked. "I think I'm finally getting there." She nodded. "He's gone." "Yeah," I said, "and we're still standing." We held each other in the dark, the world finally quiet. Spring came slowly that year, the kind of spring that didn't announce itself with fanfare, but crept in through warm winds, blooming branches, and quiet mornings full of soft sun. It was the kind of spring that made things grow again, even things that had once been burned to the ground. Rachel and I had moved into the farmhouse full-time. No more city noise, no more flashing lights or flashing headlines. Just us, and something real. One morning, I found her barefoot in the garden, hands in the soil, hair in a loose braid, humming something she swore she didn't remember the words to. "You're up early," I said, stepping onto the porch. She looked over her shoulder and grinned. "I'm planting roots," she said. And God, wasn't that what we'd spent this whole story doing? We had built a new life from ashes. The Elena Novak Foundation was fully funded, offering support for women who had been silenced, erased, or trapped like she once was. Helen ran the day-to-day. Jay had even come on as a music therapy advisor for teens. It was quiet work. Unseen. But it was honest. Jay visited more often now. Not as a shadow, but as family. One afternoon, he showed up with a small tree in the back of his truck. "Olive," he said, "thought we could plant it. For her." We chose a spot behind the house, facing the sunset. We dug the hole together. Rachel brought water. Helen mailed a plaque later that week. "Elena Novak, you were seen. You are loved." That night, after everyone left, I sat beneath the tree and opened the last page of Elena's journal. It had been blank before, but something told me to turn it one more time. And there it was, a single pressed flower, and a quote scribbled in faint ink. "Some families are built on blood, others on choice, the strongest on truth." Rachel sat beside me, resting her head on my shoulder. "You think she sees this?" she whispered. "I think she made this possible." Later that week, we got news. Landon had taken a plea deal. He'd serve 18 years, no parole for 12. He didn't fight it. Maybe, finally, even he was tired of running. I didn't visit. Not because I hated him, but because I'd already said goodbye. On the morning of our first anniversary, Rachel handed me a card. Inside was a single photo, the two of us dancing barefoot in the grass beneath hanging lights and stars. And the words, "You didn't just change your story, you gave me mine back." I looked at her,
blinking back something sharp in my chest. "We made it," I said. She smiled. "No," she whispered. "We earned it." And there, in a home built on truth and healing, surrounded by love that never needed a spotlight, I finally understood. Revenge had brought us together, but love kept us whole. And some roots, they're worth everything.